know the feeling. Your mother says something that makes your stomach drop. Your father does something that makes you want to disappear. And you cannot explain why it hurts so much because on the surface, it seems normal. Everyone's African parents do this, so it must be normal. But here's what nobody tells you. Normal is not the same as healthy. Common is not the same as right. Your parents are using specific patterns to control you. They learned these patterns from their parents, who learned them from survival. What kept your grandparents alive during colonialism is now slowly killing you. These patterns have names, and once you can name something, you can see it. Once you can see it, you can protect yourself from it. You're about to recognize your entire childhood. Some of you will see yourself in every single pattern. That's not a coincidence. That's what happens when trauma becomes tradition. Let's start with the one almost everyone knows, the guilt tripper. After all I have done for you. 5 words that can make you abandon your dreams, stay in situations that destroy you, and sacrifice your entire life. Your mother remembers the school shoes she bought you when you were 6. Your father remembers every meal he provided. They keep receipts of every sacrifice going back decades. And they pull them out the moment you try to have your own life. Want to move out? After I fed you for 25 years. Want to choose your own career? After I paid all those school fees. Want to marry someone I don't approve of? After everything I gave up for you. The guilt is surgical. It hits exactly where you're most vulnerable. Because you do remember their sacrifices. You did watch them struggle. You know they gave up things for you. So when they weaponize that sacrifice, you feel like the most ungrateful person alive. Here's what the guilt tripper knows. When you were a child, they could just say no. Now that you're an adult, they have to make you say no to yourself. And guilt does that perfectly. You cannot pursue your dreams without feeling like you're betraying them. You cannot be happy if it makes them sad. You cannot live your life because your life was purchased with their sacrifices. It doesn't belong to you. It belongs to them. This is why you're 30 years old still asking permission. This is why success feels hollow. This is why their disappointment destroys you more than your own failure. The guilt tripper didn't just raise you. They installed a control system that runs even when they're not in the room. The comparer. Your cousin became a doctor. Your neighbor's son bought his mother a house. Your father's friend's daughter just had her 3rd child. You're always being measured against someone else, and you're always losing. You got promoted? Nice, but your cousin got promoted twice. You bought a car? Good, but it's not as nice as what so-and-so drives. You're getting married? Finally, but you're older than when your sister got married. Nothing you achieve stands alone. Everything is compared, and somehow their achievement is always better. This isn't about motivation. This is about control through inadequacy. If you never feel good enough, you'll keep trying to please them. If you're always chasing someone else's success, you'll never stop to ask if you even want that success. The comparer doesn't see you as an individual. They see you as a reflection of them. Your success makes them look good. Your failure makes them look bad. So you must always be better than everyone else, or you're embarrassing them. You cannot be yourself. You can only be better than someone else's child. This is why you feel like a failure even when you're objectively successful. This is why achievements feel empty. This is why you're never proud of yourself. The comparer taught you that your worth is relative, not inherent. You're not good, you're just better than or worse than. And worse than is all you'll ever be. The silent treatment giver. They don't yell, they don't argue, they just erase you. Days of silence, sometimes weeks. You walk into a room and they walk out. You say good morning and they look through you like you're invisible. You're not told what you did wrong. You have to figure it out yourself. You replay every conversation, every action, searching for the offense. Then you apologize for something you're not even sure you did, because the silence is unbearable. The silence makes you feel like you don't exist. This is emotional abandonment disguised as discipline. It's designed to make you so uncomfortable, you'll do anything to end it. You'll apologize for things you didn't do. You'll give up boundaries you just set. You'll agree to things you don't want. Anything to be seen again. Anything to matter again. Here's what this does to you long term. You learn that conflict equals abandonment. That expressing needs equals losing love. That disagreeing means being erased. So you stop having opinions. You stop setting boundaries. You become a ghost in your own life. Adults who grew up with the silent treatment give a panic when someone is upset with them. They apologize reflexively even when they're right. They'll accept mistreatment rather than risk someone's silence. The silent treatment giver raised you to fear abandonment more than abuse. Because abandonment is what abuse felt like in your house. If you're recognizing your parents in these patterns, that's not your fault. You're not being disrespectful by seeing clearly. You're being honest. And honesty is the first step to healing. Let's keep going. The emotional manipulator. You're going to kill me. Not a figure of speech, a weapon. They cry when you set boundaries. They grab their chest when you say no. They threaten to die when you disagree. Every decision you make for yourself becomes a threat to their life. You want to study abroad? You want to kill your mother? You want to marry someone we don't approve of? You want to put your father in the grave? You want to move out? You want us to die alone. The emotional manipulator has learned that guilt doesn't always work, but fear does. If guilt can't make you comply, the threat of losing them will. They weaponize your love. Because you love them, you don't want to hurt them. Because you love them, you'll sacrifice yourself to keep them alive. They know this, so they make everything life or death. You can't leave because leaving might kill them. You can't say no because no might destroy them. You're trapped in a hostage situation where their emotional well-being is held at gunpoint and you're the only one who can save them. Except you can't save them because their pain isn't real. It's performance. It's control. Here's the cruelest part. When you finally break free, when you finally choose yourself, they don't die. They move on to the next child. Or they suddenly recover. Because it was never about survival, it was about control. The emotional manipulator raised you to believe other people's feelings matter more than your own reality, and that your life is a small price to pay for their comfort. The boundary violator. Nothing is yours, not your room, not your phone, not your mail, not your thoughts. I'm your parent. You have secrets from me. They read your diary when you were 12. They go through your messages when you're 25. They open your packages when you're 30. They listen to your phone calls at any age. Privacy is a Western concept that doesn't belong in this house. You are their child, which means you are their property. They have a right to know everything. Boundaries equal disrespect. Locked doors equal suspicion. Asking for space equals hiding something. The boundary violator genuinely believes this is love. This is protection. This is how you keep children safe. This is how families work. They don't understand you're not a child anymore. They don't understand that privacy isn't secrecy. They don't understand that autonomy isn't rebellion. Every boundary you try to set feels like rejection to them. You want your own space? You don't want to be part of this family anymore. You want privacy? You must be doing something wrong. You want independence? You think you're too good for us now. So they invade every part of your life and call it love. They violate you and call it parenting. Here's the damage. Adults raised by boundary violators cannot say no to anyone about anything. They let people invade their space, their time, their bodies. Because invasion was called love, because boundaries were called selfishness. They have no sense of where they end and others begin. They don't know what's theirs to protect. The boundary violator raised you to believe you don't have a right to yourself. Your body, your time, your life, none of it belongs to you. We're halfway through. And if you're feeling heavy right now, that's because you're carrying weight you didn't know had a name. The next patterns are going to hit differently, because they're about the ones we don't talk about. The ones we pretend don't happen. The favoritist. One child can do no wrong. One child can do no right. The golden child and the scapegoat. If you were the golden child, everyone thinks you had it easy, but you know the truth. You were performing perfection every single day. One mistake and you could lose your position. One failure and you could become the scapegoat. The pressure was crushing, the anxiety was constant. You couldn't be human. You had to be perfect. If you were the scapegoat, you know a different pain. Nothing you did mattered. You could achieve twice as much and get half the recognition. You could be perfect and still be wrong. You watched the golden child get everything while you got nothing. And you were told this was fair. The favoritist destroys both children. One through impossible standards, one through impossible rejection. And both children blame each other instead of the parent who created the division. Here's what people don't understand. The favoritist isn't choosing based on what the children do. They're choosing based on what the children represent. The golden child represents everything the parent wishes they were. The scapegoat represents everything the parent hates about themselves. It's projection. It's not about you. But knowing that doesn't heal the damage. The scapegoat grows up believing they're fundamentally broken. The golden child grows up believing love is conditional. Both spend their adult lives trying to earn what should have been freely given. The favoritist didn't just create rivalry between siblings. They created two different types of trauma in the same house. The martyr. Everything they do is sacrifice, and every sacrifice must be announced, acknowledged, and repaid. They suffer for you. They gave up their dreams for you. They worked themselves to death for you, and you will be grateful. Every single day. The martyr makes sure you know the cost of your existence. You didn't ask to be born, but you'll spend your life paying for it. They remind you constantly the career they could have had, the life they could have lived, the person they could have been, all sacrificed. For you. Their misery is your fault. Their unhappiness is your responsibility. Here's the truth the martyr won't admit. They had choices, they made decisions, they are responsible for their own life. But it's easier to blame you. It's easier to make you responsible for their fulfillment. So they suffer loudly. They sacrifice visibly. They make sure everyone knows what they gave up. And you grow up crushed under unpayable debt. You can never do enough. You can never sacrifice enough. You can never make up for the life they didn't live. The martyr raised you to believe your existence is a burden, and your job is to earn the right to be alive. The delegator. You're 8 years old making breakfast for your siblings before school. You're 10 translating for your parents at the doctor's office. You're 12 raising your younger brothers and sisters while your parents work. You weren't parented, you were promoted to co-parent. The delegator had children and made the oldest one raise them. You didn't have a childhood, you had responsibilities, adult responsibilities. And they told you this was good for you. You're learning responsibility, you're learning independence, you're becoming strong. But what you actually learned was that your needs don't matter, that you exist to serve others, that your childhood is less important than their convenience. You were good at it, you handled it, you became mature beyond your years, but you shouldn't have had to. Parentification is abuse, even when the child succeeds at it, even when they seem fine. Here's what happens to those children when they grow up. They cannot stop caretaking. They cannot receive help. They only know how to give. They're in relationships where they're the therapist, the parent, the fix-it person, never the one being cared for. They burn out by 30. They're exhausted by 40. They don't know who they are without someone needing them. The delegator raised you to believe your value is your usefulness. And the moment you stop being useful, you stop mattering. the Invalidator. You think you have it hard? Let me tell you about hard. Your feelings aren't real. Your problems aren't actual problems. Your pain doesn't compare to theirs. You say you're tired. They say you don't know what tired is. You say you're struggling. They say you don't know what struggle is. You say you're hurt. They say you're being dramatic. The Invalidator cannot hold space for your emotions because they never learned to hold space for their own. They were raised to suppress. They survived by not feeling. Now they're teaching you the same. Emotions are weakness. Pain is something you push through. Struggle is something you don't complain about. They genuinely believe they're making you stronger. They think acknowledging your feelings will make you soft. They think validating your pain will make you weak. So they minimize, they dismiss, they compare. You can't be depressed because other people have it worse. You can't be anxious because what do you have to be anxious about? You can't be traumatized because trauma is war and famine, not your childhood. Here's what this creates. Adults who cannot identify their own emotions, cannot ask for help, cannot admit when they're struggling. High-functioning and falling apart, successful and suicidal, holding everything together while dying inside. The Invalidator raised you to believe suffering in silence is strength and asking for help is failure. The Helicopter Parent, African Edition. You're 35 and your mother calls your boss to explain why you missed work. You're married and your father shows up unannounced to inspect how you're raising your children. You have your own house and they still have a key they use whenever they want. The Helicopter Parent cannot let you be an adult. But the African version is different from the Western one. Western helicopter parents are afraid their children will fail. African helicopter parents are afraid their children will succeed wrong. You might make money but marry the wrong person. You might have a career but lose your culture. You might be independent but forget your family. So they must supervise everything. They don't trust you to make good decisions, not because you've proven yourself untrustworthy, but because letting go feels like abandonment. If they're not involved, they're not parenting. If they're not controlling, they're not caring. Their anxiety becomes your suffocation. You can't breathe without them monitoring. You can't move without them directing. You can't live without them managing. Adults raised by helicopter parents are competent but feel incompetent. Capable but feel incapable. They second-guess every decision. They need approval for choices they should make independently. They're 40 years old asking permission to live their lives. The helicopter parent raised you to believe you can't be trusted with your own life. The Gaslighter. That never happened. You remember the conversation clearly, word for word. You remember where you were standing, what they were wearing, the exact tone of their voice. You're making that up. You remember the hurt, the confusion, the moment something inside you broke. You're too sensitive, you're remembering wrong. The Gaslighter rewrites history. Things they said never happened. Things you remember clearly happened differently. Your memory is unreliable. Your perception is wrong. Their version is the only truth. Here's what makes this so damaging. They genuinely believe their version. They've rewritten the past so many times they believe the rewrite. They can't admit fault because admitting fault means facing shame. And shame feels like death. So they change the story. They deny what happened. They accuse you of lying about your own experience. This makes you question everything. Did that really happen? Did they really say that? Am I going crazy? You start recording conversations, keeping receipts, documenting everything, because you can't trust your own mind anymore. The Gaslighter makes you distrust yourself more than you distrust them. And once you can't trust your memory, you can't trust your judgment. You can't leave because you can't trust that decision. You can't set boundaries because you can't trust they actually violated them. The Gaslighter raised you to believe your reality is unreliable, and only they know the truth. The Threatener. If you do that, don't come back to this house. If you marry that person, you're no longer my child. Choose, us or them. The threatener uses ultimatums as control. They draw lines in the sand and dare you to cross them. Most of the time, they don't mean it. But you don't know that. So you live in fear of the threat becoming real. The threatener knows that fear of loss is powerful. You might not obey out of respect, but you will obey out of fear of losing them. So they threaten abandonment, disownment, exile. Every major decision comes with a threat. Study something they don't approve of, you won't get any support from us. Date someone they don't like, you're choosing that person over your family. Live your own life, then you're no longer part of this family. The threatener keeps you hostage with fear of exile. And in African families, exile isn't just losing your parents. It's losing your entire family, your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins, your community, everything. The threatener knows this, so they make the stakes impossibly high. Choose me or lose everyone. Most people choose the parent. They sacrifice their lives to keep the family. And the threatener wins. Adults who grew up with threateners live in constant fear of abandonment. They can't make decisions without calculating who they might lose. They can't be authentic because authenticity might cost them everyone. They're performing a version of themselves that keeps people around and dying inside from the pretending. The threatener raised you to believe love is conditional, and the condition is total obedience. 12 patterns. Maybe you saw yourself in one. Maybe you saw yourself in all of them. Either way, you're not broken. You're not crazy. You're not imagining things. These patterns are real. The damage is real. Your pain is real. But here's what's also real. You survived. You're here. You're aware. And awareness is the first step to breaking free. You can't change them, but you can change how much power these patterns have over you. You can name them. You can see them. You can protect yourself from them. You're not the toxic one for recognizing toxicity. You're the healthy one for refusing to pass it on.